NFT, DeFi, Metaverse, and I probably gamify, and I probably miss one or two for sure in the process, are all part of this digital transformation. The group that we have here are thought leaders and they are also innovators in their own field, either because they are in regulated fields or they have projects that are related with blockchain, tokenization. Some are involved as investors and they have startup incubators, VCs. Some may have some innovation project associated with sports like football, and some may be listing some of these projects so they get traction, liquidity, and some just come some very far away and they like Dubai so much that they visit us on a regular basis. But a lot of this big gang and blockchain and crypto, which quite a lot of good friends come from a place known as Puerto Rico. So we have a multitude of languages: French, Spanish, Polish, I think, Russian, Arabic, Portuguese, Spanish, French. I'm missing probably a few, but so I will get everybody the chance to participate in a little bit contributing the vision of what they see, these big elements of transformation. Is it really the metaverse, everything, NFT, or a combination of all these technologies together to create something unique? Maybe a new version of e-commerce like Web 3.0, where we combine all these technologies together. I had a chance to be with Pedro yesterday at EcoX, so let me start first with Pedro because he's got quite a vocal way of contributing to these projects, and some of them are in the pipeline as well. The question is, what do you see as the future of all these technologies combined together, and how is this creating the revolution in our environment? So a little bit of a crystal ball where we will be maybe in 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, 2 years.
People. Bill Gates is famous for saying that people overestimate what they'll do in a year and underestimate what they'll do in 10 years. So I typically think 3 to 6 months to a year is probably not enough time for the industry to shift as much as we want it to, or maybe as much as we'd like. But what I could see for the blockchain space as a whole is basically a transition from, most people lose the fact of what the true power of blockchain is, which is the fact it's a better accounting metric, which is verification, triple entry bookkeeping. So 500 years ago, double entry bookkeeping changed the way we do business. It created banks, right? It gave you the ability to keep track of debts and credits, and it's exactly how every business in the world does business today. The problem with that accounting method is that it requires a third-party auditor or verification specialist to verify whether or not your books are correct or not, right? So anytime you go to sell your business or you do a real estate transaction, you need a third-party auditor or verification specialist to verify whether that information is correct, which thus ultimately raises the price of goods and services all across the board. The true power of blockchain is the triple entry bookkeeping, right? That triple entry is verification. The network itself, over 51% of the network, has to agree the transaction happened, it took place. There was $1 in this wallet, no longer exists in this wallet. Now it exists in this wallet, and it can't be spent again. And it's verified by the network and it's incentivized by cryptocurrency. A lot of people are confused by that. People think that you can have blockchain without cryptocurrency. Those are essentially centralized blockchains, which actually offer no benefit. They actually are hindrance because they're storage capacity issues. So once people become actually educated of the true power of blockchain, people will no longer want to do business with people who are not operating on a blockchain, because they'll understand that this means that actually your accounting metrics are accurate, right? And they're transparent and they're verifiable and easily to see on board. The time for that to happen, is subjective. It could be, my estimation, somewhere between 2 to 5 years. But once the general public actually becomes educated to the true power of blockchain, what will happen is that it'll be a landslide effect where no one will want to do business with anyone that is not on a blockchain because of the verification aspect that blockchain offers. So essentially, if you look at it as from that perspective, which is a better accounting metric, and you realize 500 years have gone by where 100% of the businesses have used this accounting metric, that will now shift into this new accounting metric, which is triple entry bookkeeping, then ultimately you realize the opportunity and you recognize why it'll be such a landslide of people getting involved in the industry. So right now, what you see is very the tip of the iceberg of all the businesses that will be headed to the blockchain space, because again, all businesses will go to triple entry bookkeeping at some point or another in the future.
You mentioned blockchain, but we have other technologies, like, for example, metaverse. What is your opinions on the mixture of these? Because
Well,
the metaverse could or could not use blockchain. And there
Well,
can
yeah,
have
I mean, ultimately, the metaverse is going to be primarily. I mean, metaverse is the concept of metaverse has been around for a while, right? Second Life was built, a similar version of the metaverse. But what we see now is that technology is catching up with it. So the number one ingredient you have for success in any business is timing, right? So the timing 20 years ago for metaverse or for a digital world wasn't exactly there because the hardware couldn't keep up, the hardware and the software. So as we see the hardware progress and the technology progressing, we see that the timing is starting to be right for that. The appeal of the metaverse for a lot of people seems to be, lost on a lot of people. But the appeal for the metaverse is very simple. The ability for someone who's maybe not so tall to be very tall and handsome and attractive, or someone who may be not so in shape to be all of a sudden very much in shape, or someone who may want to drive a nicer car, right? If you can't afford a $400,000 sports car, but all of a sudden you can get one for maybe $400 in the metaverse, and now you can feel what it's like to drive around in a Lamborghini and get that kind of appreciation from people. This is what appeals to people, the ability to be something other than yourself without going through the transformation that you would have to go through real life that takes very instantaneously, not to mention distances. The ability to communicate and interact in the metaverse is something that people not exactly are seeing right now at this moment. But as things progress and as the hardware and the software combined progress and technology, it just kind of merges together, you'll start to see like conferences in the metaverses, concerts, events, and venues and things like that will take place in the metaverse. And it'll give you the ability to interact with people globally at a much rapid pace. And it won't, things like me flying back and forth from Puerto Rico to Dubai every month probably won't happen because we'll interact more and more in the metaverse.
So it was your day 2 days ago, Valentin?
Yes, maybe first one, and I'm restarting rooftops. Welcome. So Pedro started to highlight this bookkeeping problem for metaverse, and I'm sure this is about $250 problem. The value created could be $250. I will explain you why. Who had conflicts with partners? Please raise hands. Did you have conflicts with partners, with friends, with spouses? Conflicts? Oh, somebody showed this. Okay, so most of these conflicts, I'm sure 99% of them, is about who owns what. So who should give how much social currency, favors, or the property. Eventually, that's about ownership. Who owns what? And to solve this problem of ownership, kings needed army. So they need army to protect their land and then ensure that their money worth something. And there are people who can own them. Then they need some police, courts, and so on to enforce property rights. And blockchain solves this bookkeeping problem, but it's way bigger than bookkeeping. It's about political systems. It's a very important problem, which is called property ownership, property rights. And our civilization is built on top of this problem, on top of solution of these problems. So imagine where the world where you have less conflicts. So you do not have tension. You just ask, how many tokens you have? Vote on the DAO, you don't have conflicts. Vote on them. And then own outcome of your votes. Is the token price growing? Is the business growing? Is your family growing? It can be eventually tokenized. Right? So, and the currencies is one of the first steps. Then there are other assets. There are startup tokens, equities, and so on. And this will grow. And entire capital markets will be tradable 24/7. Many markets which are not liquid will be more liquid, like social currency markets already started to get into the capital markets with NFTs, so that you can measure price of each of the followers, each of the stories behind some pictures, for example. So this property rights problem solution is huge. It is quadrillion dollar value. So current value of the global economy is $3 quadrillion, right? So um, solving this problem with blockchain can magnify performance of the humankind, especially in countries where political systems are not as efficient to protect human rights and in particular property rights.
My next colleague next to me is a gentleman by the name of Thibault. We have done at least 3 projects together, somehow in progress. And Thibault is not just a writer, but also involved in very interesting futuristic projects. So Thibault, tell us a little bit about it.
Thank you. I'm a little puzzled, my dear friend George, because the topic of today is the future of blockchain, but I would be more than thrilled to talk about pay-foot. But then I will make the link between the future of blockchain and pay-foot. So I am in the middle of the topic. And I'm sometimes speak like a lawyer because that's what I am as a background. So sorry for this. I like to have organized ideas. So I see four directions for the future of blockchain. The first, something that we all understand, at least intuitively, is changing the monetary and the financial system. That's obvious. And I promised to someone to talk about my spiritual understanding of blockchain. And for me, the finance or the monetary system is dual, meaning that when you want a system to be balanced, you need to have yin and yang, feminine and masculine energies balanced. And we live in a society where there is no balance. The financial or the monetary system is, let's say, it's an archetype, of course. It's too masculine, too short-term, too based on immediate profits and no sustainability. And blockchain and crypto, I know it might sound strange because a lot of profits are involved in blockchain, but definitely my belief is that with the technology, we are seeing more and more tokens which are designed to be exchanged and to be used in a real economy, even if it is virtual, real economy, and not just to be kept to make more money. So there is that promise of a more balanced system between yin and yang currencies. That's the first direction that I see. The second direction that I see is other trust systems. You and name it. There are so many of them. You know, health. Let's one by one randomly. Health systems. Health systems is based on trust. It's based on databases. It's based on governments control everything. And you have there in so many other supply chain systems where blockchain is an obvious technology, and it's limitless. And the third, and probably for me today, the most exciting one, is that blockchain has the potential to totally revolutionize the internet itself. And I am the chairman of a foundation in Belgium called IUR, we say it in French. It's Internet, Google it, Internet of Universal Resources. And that's a perfect example of the so-called Web.3.0 Internet, which is being made possible thanks to blockchain, where instead of having 10 monopolies or 10 super dominant companies, Google, etc., and offering all the services of the internet, with the merger, the marriage between internet and blockchain, a real decentralized internet becomes possible. And the last point, and I'm making the bridge with Payfoot, is that society at large can be totally modified by blockchain, just because, for a simple reason, is that with blockchain, liquid, what we call sometimes liquid democracy, it's a concept. Liquid democracy, that's the new evolution of democracy, of direct democracy. Direct democracy, it's a hard thing to achieve. To involve people in a decision-making process, many people, it's hard. That's why we invented democracy. And blockchain makes liquid democracy, which is an ultimate form of democracy, with governance tokens, and where everyone can be involved in the democracy. That's what we are building with Payfoot. With PayFoot, we are building a system where you have a dual monetary system between a yang currency and a yin currency, a stable coin and a crypto. And we are building a metaverse, which is a liquid democracy, where all the funds can be involved through governance tokens under the umbrella of an association, which is like, if you want, the FIFA of the metaverse. Thank you.
There's an interesting concept that was rephrased by two of the previous speakers, and that's governance and DAO, decentralized autonomous organization. It's kind of a modern decentralized organization that the people that own the digital tokens are able to participate and vote in a much more democratic, decentralized way in the projects and decision-making process. So another term to add to the list of NFTs, metaverse, DeFi, etc. So we have here a lady that received, I guess, the award on behalf of Gorav. Gorav cannot be with us today, but it's a pleasure to meet you. I do not know your name. Anna Maria. Anna Maria, pleasure to meet you. So we would like to get your perspective, I guess, more from a electronic payment systems, etc., because they're an essential part of the decentralization, and you can say the democratization of finance to make it accessible to some people, including the ones in Africa that presented to us before.
Hello, I just wanted to make sure that you all know that Kumar is busy building the future of blockchain. That's why he's not here. I am Ana Maria. I've been working with Kasha for over 4 years. I'm the vice president on the corporate banking and the licensing side. Kasha is one of the largest crypto-friendly banking platforms in the world. We host and we bank the largest titans, including Binance and KuCoin, CoinDC, CoinDCX, and many others. We
Disaster recovery.
Yes, I think it's stopped. No, I'm sorry. Uh, like my colleague said, the metaverse and the NFTs are one of the future of this blockchain. Actually, right now we are working on a new project that we are going to launch soon. It's about a real life experience in the metaverse. It's a fun project. It's all about integrating people and bring people together. It's going to be launched soon, so we are having a private party soon on 19. For those who want to join, you can contact me later. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Last member of the panel is Dr. Zaid El Imari, and he'll give us a more localized perspective.
Hi, everyone. We know that the blockchain is one of the new technology, maybe before like internet. It is a huge opportunity and a huge potential thing we can do. The funny thing, some people thought the blockchain is about cryptocurrency, it's about just Bitcoin. So even he can listen to you and understand what is it. The blockchain is more better than this, and there is a lot of applications you can convert it to the blockchain. And the power of the blockchain is the verification. The verification is more important thing, and the fast of transactions, and you save a lot of time and cost as well. UAE government discovered that since 2018, and they have a strategic plan to convert 100% of the transactions, government transactions till 2024. Nowadays, we arrange about 50%. For my work in the ministry, we transfer 5 services to the blockchain. One of these very interesting thing, we have NGO, non-government organizations election. We have around 280. So before the pandemic, we are doing the elections actual in their offices. They stay 1 day, just do one election, because you have to wait and verify the members, the voters one by one. Nowadays, we are doing 2 or 3 a day. We built a system in the blockchain. Everyone, for the voter, he can create his own e-wallet. He will write it his Emirates ID, for example, his personal information, and he can choose the candidate. Since he will save it and finish the process, done. So few minutes we can get the results. After that, we send for create the certificate also built in the certificate in the blockchain. So there is no objections at all. This is the power and beauty of blockchain. And also we have nowadays our a MOU with BSV Foundation. They will build us a system for 4 or 5 services. We have uh, thousands of certificates. We will put it in the blockchains, and the verification will be just one click. That's it.
So we have so far talked about the future. As you know, the road to the future sometimes is a little bit bumpy. There's no straight road. So I want the perspective from our thought leaders. What do they consider to be the best chances for success? So what do you need to bring along with you for the ride to be successful in using or building the future based on metaverse, DAO, NFT, DeFi, blockchain, and all these new technologies? What are the key ingredients that may make your road either bumpy or successful?
First on that list is always going to be friendly jurisdictions. I'm probably not going to be, too popular by saying this, but the truth is, every market that's regulated is regulated themselves out of the market. I've been a part of this industry and regulation in a variety of markets. Every hotspot that has been crypto friendly, if you can name from Malta to, to the markets in Eastern Europe that basically started with the Estonian, crypto licenses for the exchanges. Every single market that's regulated has regulated themselves out of the market. And the reason why is because the technology shifts so fast. And anyone here is a regulator understands that when you have law, you have to stick to the letter of the law. And unfortunately, you can't predict what the technology is going to do 6 months from now. So if you'd have regulated last year, everything that's coming forward this year in the metaverse is going to be brand new for you. And it'll take you a while to catch up. And by that time, entrepreneurs, we move with our feet. Like the majority of us are here from other markets. So, and the reason why is because there's no taxes here, and it's because it still has relatively friendly jurisdictions because they're not sticking to regulations that would adhere you. And it's not because entrepreneurs in this space are looking to break the law. It's because the laws themselves are difficult to adhere to with new technologies. Second is going to be no taxes. There's a lot of people that think that regulation, the taxation issue is like, how do the governments make money off of these issues? Dubai is a prime example of that. Dubai doesn't tax. Dubai is a flourishing economy because of the business it attracts. So if you keep the taxes either at zero or very close to zero, you're going to be attracted to entrepreneurs, and entrepreneurs are going to go there. We live in a world where the internet connects us and where we don't have to be in a certain market anymore to attract capital, to attract intellectual capital, or to attract any kind of labor or talent because of the internet, right? So it used to be that if you had this idea in technology, you had to be in San Francisco. And if you wasn't in San Francisco, VCs wouldn't look at you, bottom line. It's not the same no more. In fact, the majority of the VCs are moving out of San Francisco, right? The majority of them moving to Puerto Rico, ironically. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that, and I'm not against all regulation. I think that regulation is important to an extent, but I think it should have a lot of pivots involved in it to be able to potentially move forward in the future. The third, and actually the most important, the reason why each and every last one of us are in this room is through education, right? So everyone who got into crypto to this day in this world got into it because they learned about it, they were educated about it, not because they were regulated by it. So education has to be flourishing, and it has to be prevalent, and it has to give the public something to understand and inviting and easy access. And then the fourth and the most important is going to be solid, sound leaders that have good moral principles that actually want to bring value to the world and not extract value from it. I think if you have a combination of those four things, then the market will flourish, and that will happen regardless of where it is in the world. There are so many countries out there that are dying for the kind of attention that, for instance, the UAE has exhibited over the past 2 years by attracting all these entrepreneurs. So if another market, if this, or any other market over-regulates themselves out of the market, we'll just all go there. And it's happened various times throughout the history of crypto, and it'll continue to happen as times flourish.
He brought some interesting points. Obviously, education and ethics, I think, are close to my heart because they're quite important. It allows you to do the right thing and use the knowledge to do the right thing. Two interesting points. One was taxation. I think we have two extremes. We have Portugal as example, with also zero taxation on blockchain and crypto, and of course UAE and many others. And then we have India that just passed some rules or in the process of 30% taxation on every blockchain transaction. So these two extremes, very, very,
All that's going to do is increase the flights from India to Dubai.
yeah. So the flight of resources, I think it's going to be like a tsunami, not not a river. Correct. The, yes, the second one is regulatory. I do agree that regulation is always behind schedule, just because they're slow and technology moves so fast. But there is a middle ground, and I found some countries have adopted this. One is here in the GCC, which is Bahrain. Actually, I always say Bahrain, but they have what's called the regulatory sandbox. And I think sandboxes are kind of a variation. Okay, we don't regulate it right away. We let you experiment. If it's successful, we'll pass the laws that match the new tech that you brought in. So it gives a little bit more flexibility. Of course, there's some control. You cannot do everything. It's not the Far West. So, Valentin, your thoughts on the topic of what you consider your ingredients for moving into this new frontier?
So, from a startup's perspective, it's still about protocols. So, and then it's, I will tell a few cases which I see based on our 300 launches. So as the CEO of La Token, so I saw 300 launches and almost 1,000 tokens which were listed on secondary market. So we are one of the largest players in the primary market. And of course, it's protocol tokens. It's about automation of anything which is related for transaction business, for currency and financial services like lending protocols, DEXs, and yield farming. Then some new segments like farming on liquidity, LP tokens, right? Then synthetics, derivatives. So there are some trends like DEXs are trending, then DEXs with derivatives. And then there are investors who invest into this and bring their network effects. So this is the second ingredient. Get the right investors who bring their network effect. They have partners with influencers, with other protocols, so you can immediately integrate with them and they share their liquidity. And this can bring institutional money, family offices money into these protocols. So this is still a major driver of success in all of the tokens which have billions in value, which were launched within the last 2 years. With some exception with game tokens, right? They are all about the DeFi, which is backed by investors bringing the network effects. So then I see the game tokens traction when you have a scalable machine to acquire gamers who are rewarded for their very basic gaming activity, and then there are farmers, game farmers, who organize the groups of people to farm the money, and they work as a machine to acquire users into this game. That's how Axie token with SLP token with a Ronin wallet acquired more users in Philippines than entire the banking system with their credit cards. So that's just in 6 months. Bam! There are more users for Ronin wallet than their financial banking system, credit card system acquired for the last 50 years. And then their next use case is look into the Terra IoT success case. So there's 5G example. There's a merchant who wants to sell 5G equipment, right? And this is upgrade of this mobile internet connection to transfer terabytes in a second. But it works just for a limited space, like 100 meters. It's like Wi-Fi. So you need a lot of merchants who hold and serve these devices. And then they have a problem of payments. How users will pay to them? You have so many providers of these 5G spots. All of them need some way to get paid. And then the token based on Terra is a solution. So in order to buy this 5G device, you should open a wallet and which will enable you to get cash from those who use your 5G device. This can be driver who just drive it through your home and then get some terabytes from you or megabytes, and he should pay in a token of this supplier, seller of these 5G devices. And this looks like a bigger next things. Then Gary token. So we were one of the private placement partners for them. I personally invested. This is TikTok of India. Gary token, this 100 million users. And they start to pay with a Gary token. They will launch it. So imagine TikTok where you get paid for with viewers with some activities with a token, and then you use this token to pay for some other services, they start to integrate with exchanges. So we are integrating with them, so their users can withdraw money, the exchange Gary token to their local currency, to Indian rupee, and they pay their bills. That's the plan, not yet working. But this example of which looks really is successful. So think about the current trending topics, add something on top of that to have your niche, right? So you can win this niche, then get the funds which can bring network effects. This is a success formula for now, but it's constantly evolving. I see very new variations.
So we have innovative business models that help enhance the approach. We have also obviously new terminology that you have to learn, liquidity pools, and also maybe launchpad, because it's the way a lot of projects get launched today in digital or asset exchanges. So Thibaut, back to you on your road to innovative success. What are you consider your critical elements to achieve this success?
You know, there are some key elements that are being solved by the industry. You know, the so-called and famous scalability and interoperability problems are being solved. I'm not the most techie, person of that assembly, but it's being solved by the industry. Every month, every week, there are new solutions. That in that room, there are at least 20 people solving those issues right now. And the big problem, as Pedro said, is the regulation. I'm a lawyer by profession, so of course I have a lot of focus on it, and it's super difficult to summarize what's going on with the regulation. What I can say is the following ones. Again, I'm speaking like a lawyer, trying to be organized. Sorry for this. First is that the regulation works today only when the states can catch a bridge, which is a bridge between crypto and fiat, right? That's a fact. So you regulate the exchanges, the exchange platforms, because they are the bridge between crypto and fiat. Then the governments can catch it. But today, the governments do not interact. And if there are exceptions, don't say please Salvador, because that's not an exception. And the governments do not interact with the DeFi, which is the real problem today. Problem is not the exchanges. They are regulated. They can be regulated because they are like banks, basically. The problem is DeFi. And how can you regulate DeFi if you do not interact with DeFi? Governments do not interact with DeFi. What do I mean by interact? Is first, they do not accept payment of taxes in crypto. It's a big problem if you want to regulate something which is decentralized and you accept only to pay the taxes, assuming taxes must be paid. That's another debate. And only in fiat doesn't work with DeFi, doesn't work. And second thing is that, okay, But shall I make KYC, the famous KYC, identification mandatory? And then you have two violently opposed camps. On one side, say, are you out of your mind? On DeFi to be, this is decentralized, guys, no identification. And the government will say, are you nuts? Are you out of your mind? Because you think that I will let an entire ecosystem, doing commerce, business, etc., and finance without any identification? You are completely mad. So the only solution here is to come up with the so-called self-sovereign identity. And it's just an experiment here and there, the so-called self-sovereign identity, where you can allow some identification, but you control your data first through your wallet and the level of identification that you allow in certain conditions. And that's exactly what we are seeing with the famous CBDCs, where you have that exactly the debate. Is CBDCs, you are lunatic, because governments with CBDCs, they will control everyone. And then you need to come up with levels of KYC, levels of privacy, etc. And we are not there yet at all. Governments are stuck in their legacy system where they see only taxes be paying in fiat. That's all they see. It will not work. No, at the end of the day, it's going to be hide and seek play for forever. Parts of that ecosystem will never accept to be regulated. That's another truth that we need to admit. But if we want to be part of that ecosystem, to be regulated in a fair way, and with the interaction of governments, you need to pay taxes in cryptos, guys, and you need to have decentralized identity. That's it.
So some new important concepts, how to pay taxes in DeFi. I think the India fixed it.
Move
They
to Puerto
say
Rico.
you put it in a smart contract. I'm not sure if it's going to work, but
Move to Puerto Rico, no taxes. Act 22. Zero cap gains, move to Puerto Rico, taxes are solved.
okay. Solution, move to Puerto Rico or to Dubai, so for now. Other important aspect was how to regulate DeFi. I think it's very difficult because it's in the blockchain. I think Europe is trying. You know, there's been a few papers published in ENISA and in the European Parliament, and there's one doctor working very hard at that. I don't think they have yet found the solution, but I think a lot of work is being done in this area. So I invite you to have a look. It's some Dr. Greek. I'll find his name. It's easy in my mobile somewhere. So back to you, Anne. What is your recipe for enabling all these technologies to be successful?
Move to Kesha. Actually, all these people who are with DeFi, they just came to Kesha because of this. We are also offering high interest on your deposits in more than 22 currencies. So for Bitcoin, for example, it's 12% a year, and for USDT, it's 24% a year. So there is always a solution for each problem. So also Kesha, this is what is solved, because the ultimate goal is to convert this crypto into fiat, right? This is the ultimate purpose of having crypto. Yes, it's a bridge, exactly.
Okay, so for Anne here, the solution is cash out or cat, correct? Cash out. Okay, well, kasha means different things in different languages. I think in Russian it means food or something, but I'll leave it at that. Dr. Saeed Al-Emari, what is your, I think Emirates is quite always innovative with these technologies. They learn, they absorb. And so what do you think is the little ingredients for the magic to succeed?
I believe that UAE steps a huge step about when they regulated their cryptocurrency with limited regulation and terms. I think this is the best regulation in the Middle East and North Africa. And then maybe it is so close to some countries like Estonia, for example. And the good thing, the UAE government tried to step up with the new technology, but at the same time had to give opportunity for the projects like Sandbox. For example, when the cryptocurrency exchanges came here, or like Binance and others, okay, give him a license or approvals with the Sandbox to see what's going on. And also, the UAE government deal with experienced companies like CV Labs in Zug in Switzerland to write it down the regulations. So it is a huge steps. On the same times, they are big fan and encourages the technology of the blockchain. We understand that the problem with the DeFi and cryptocurrency, this is a critical thing because it's belong for the government and central banks as well. The problem is it's to open it, everybody, he can transfer his wealth to the cryptocurrency. After that, if he lose, what can he do? The problem when the Salvador now, when the prices of the cryptocurrency and Bitcoin is up, everybody cheering for this president. When he coming down, they said, oh my God, I lose my worth, and it's bad decision. So this is critical thing. If it is cryptocurrency, it is stable, we can understand that, okay, why the government not adopt it. But other hand, we have another thing. We have the blockchain world. We have the, for example, the NFT field. We have the metaverse. And this is a huge opportunity in the future. So we have to wait till we find out how to solve this issue about the cryptocurrency, the prices. If it is we find solution or bridge, as you said, I think the other countries they can regulate it.
So you look at stable coin as something that is facilitated. By the way, the most popular digital
As a
currency today,
payment gateway, yes, exactly.
it's USDT, not Bitcoin, simply because if you're going to pay for a coffee, it's much easier to pay and know what you're going to pay for. I think we're slowly closing down, but what I would like to do is maybe invite every one of our panelists to maybe make one or two closing words about their wisdom to the audience, or maybe some actions for you to take home. I usually call this like homework. So when you go home, you took something from this conference.
Okay, we live in an unstable world. Every economy in the world is unstable. US economy is probably the world leading unstable economy, which most people think is the most stable economy. Proof of that is that a majority of the stable coins are pegged to the US dollar. And if I'm not mistaken, the UAE currency is pegged 3.6721 to the US dollar as well. Stable coins to me represent a big danger moving forward as we watch the collapse of fiat currencies around the world. And when this happens almost overnight. Proof of that is what happened in Venezuela. I used to own a bakery in Miami. Two of my employees owned 5 bakeries apiece. Well, one of them owned 5 bakeries, the other owned 2 bakeries apiece in Venezuela. Overnight, they own nothing. This happens overnight. Deflation happens overnight. Is happening in Lebanon right now as well. So when these stable coins that are pegged to these fiat currencies, when the fiat currencies collapse, the stable coins that are pegged to them will collapse as well. So everyone that thinks the stable coins are a hedge against the volatility of, say, Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies, we'll see what happens as these stable coins start to collapse. The US right now has printed almost 30% of all the circulating currency in the past 18 months. And this is a huge problem for inflation. The US right now is also overspending on wars all over the place, and we don't need to get into the politics about it, but they're not producing. They're not producing like they used to. It used to be when I'm 42 years old, when I was a child, the US was a world leader in a ton of fields. The only fields that the US is a world leader in right now is weapons and healthcare. Outside of that, the US has lost its leadership everywhere else. Trust me, I know, because all the world leading entrepreneurs in the United States go elsewhere to provide their inventions. So the truth of the matter is that we must look at, other alternative forms of hedging your bets. You look at what's going on right now in Canada. If you're not paying attention to what's going on in Canada right now, the Canadian government is about to order the freeze and the hold of the bank accounts of all the truckers that are doing the blockade to stop the mandates. They're going to seize their assets. So whatever money that they have in the banks, and this is not going to stop in Canada. This is going to start in Canada. It's going to go to other places. So my advice to everyone is to get educated about what's going on with digital currencies and digital assets, and understanding why decentralization is important. Understand the difference between decentralized currencies and centralized currencies, and understand how decentralized currencies work, and the fact that there is no intermediary and no one can hold your assets, no one can freeze your assets but you. This is going to be key into the new world as we transition to new economy. There's going to be a ton of transition over the course of the next 10 to 15 years, and the world is not as stable, as safe as people think it is, because we live in an inflationary economy that's built on nothing, really, hot air. So from that perspective, I would encourage everyone to learn about decentralization, understand why decentralized blockchains are relevant, and centralized blockchains are basically just fluff. So if you don't understand the difference between the two, feel free to come see me. I'll sit down and have some educational conversations with you, and hopefully give you a better understanding of how you can hedge your assets and hedge your risk, and also position yourself to benefit from this transition. Because as this happens, as these assets drop to the floor, Bitcoin is going to rise to the moon.
Some interesting thoughts here. Decentralized, be your own bank. Actually, there's a good friend of mine just moved to Portugal. His name Taitu. You also know him very well. Long hair guy, living on the BI, maybe Canada, I don't know. When he got involved in this, he took his entire house and his family and he put it all in Bitcoin. At the time he did it, I think his house was 300 or 200 Bitcoin. This was like maybe 5 to 16. Then with a few years later, he could buy the same house for 100 Bitcoin, then 50. Today, he can buy the same house for 2 point something Bitcoin. So it's kind of an interesting numbers. But this way, the same thing can happen. You want to buy a Tesla a few years back, that would have cost you a whole bundle. But now I think we're down to also 1 or 2 Bitcoins. So it's a big revolution as we go. So Valentin, your thoughts?
Yeah, so as a founder of major launchpad, so my advice to our founders, have your endurance to build accumulated advantage. And you will have to endure a lot of volatility, a lot of problems, market problems, company problems. Remember a few things. So I also was a hedge fund manager, and I see here is a big value creation. So first of all, there's a bigger changes each 10 to 15 years on the value creation side. So if you look into top list of companies by market capitalization, you will find only one company which was there 15 years ago. It's Microsoft. All of the other companies are new companies, internet companies, and they were born after or during dot-com bubble, right? Not all of them, some of them were born later, like Facebook. And so remember this. So in 10 years, there will be very different companies on top of the capitalization list. And most of these companies will be blockchain companies. And remaining companies will use blockchain somehow, right? So remember this. Why? Because the blockchain solve a very big pain, this property right problem. It's this really dramatically change everything, this solution, right? So kind of, if you started here, do not give up. So find a way how you can attach to existing products which have traction, how you can attach your expertise, your knowledge of the market's microstructure, client pain, find a way, right? And survive cycles, survive volatility. And eventually, you will have a very big advantage, accumulated advantage to build next big things on top of this technology.
So be strong, be endurant. No, you said be strong, so mean endurance.
In short,
So if you're a startup, you know, build up some muscle. It's a long ride as we go towards being a successful business, or sometimes we call this in our business unicorns. But also unicorns today use some blockchain in some form. Actually, this is interesting because yesterday we had a discussion in EcoX, and some people came to see me at the end of the day and says, "Oh, we are an e-commerce organization." And I said, "Where do you use blockchain?" They said, "We don't use any blockchain." I said, "Why not?" So I suggested to them maybe go back into redesign or include something into their ecosystem. So back to Thibaut. Thibaut, what is your final words of wisdom?
I appreciate what you said, Pedro, and I would like to bounce back because that's a thought I had over the last month, or if not years, when we decided to design our own stable coin for the football economy. It's a question I ask myself: is that we are pegged to a basket of currencies, and I've been teaching monetary theory in the business school for years. And believe me, the financial and monetary system today is the biggest Ponzi scheme ever. That's the truth. Let's face it. That's the truth. If there's one Ponzi scheme in the world, that's the monetary system, how it works, which is based on nothing. It's the money is made of thin air. It's magic money created by central banks, distributed by commercial banks that are just writing a line of code in their IT system when they are making loans. That's it. There's nothing, absolutely nothing in a monetary system which is backed by something. So it's a Ponzi scheme. So I know it, and it can collapse at any time. So let's say that a basket of currencies is better than just one currency like dollar. It's not enough to guarantee a stability, but there are also other questions to be taken into consideration in the short term. Regulations are among them because it's not that easy to design a purely crypto stablecoin today, and also reputation. If you want to come up with today a stablecoin which is adopted or accepted by governments, Qatar World Cup, we are linked to the football ecosystem, so we need to be present in Qatar. If you come up with a crypto-backed stablecoin, just forget about it. So step by step, I concur with your analysis, but you don't come up with such a revolution like this step by step.
So basket,
There is actually one metric that I think is safe for stable coins. How many people in here know what the Big Mac index is? The Big Mac index is what shows the true power of your currency in whatever country you're in. As crazy as it sounds, literally the Big Mac from McDonald's. If you don't believe me, Google it. The Big Mac index shows how powerful the currency that you hold purchasing power is in whatever currency in whatever country there is. So I think that there is potential, and we've discussed this with some of my partners in Puerto Rico, of creating a stable coin to the Big Mac index, and that would basically be, and it would basically be buoyant as opposed to be stable. It would be buoyant, a buoyant coin, which you'll start to see buoyancy coins coming forward in the future as some of us are starting to create.
interesting aspect about Bitcoin index was one Big Mac, Big Mac. When it got introduced in the Soviet Union, it was actually introduced by Canadians in the Soviet Union. They went and they planted the potatoes and many other things. It's a whole ecosystem. But the story was not that. The story is that people had to work almost a month or a month and a half to buy one single Big Mac. And they used to make lineups on the street, almost like the way people do for iPhones today. They kind of camp outside the iPhone lunch but they were doing this for Big Macs, but the salary that they had to earn was so substantial that the value of the currency worldwide at that time was quite devalued, you can say. Back to Johan. Beyond Kasha, give us some nuggets.
You should everyone before investing should learn about the projects and the teams and everything that's behind the coin, even if it's stable or not. So this is the first advice that I could give to someone. If the project is legit and it has like big chances to grow.
So, team, so that means you need to be visible in the projects. You need to have a good project plan. Doctor?
I believe
Say
that
it.
we still in early stage in the blockchain world. I advise the people to really specify and just pick one field in the blockchain. He can cover everything. For example, if you are a gamer, just focus on metaverse and GameFi. If you are a lawyer, you have to focus on regulation, for example. Okay, if you are a trader, you're a trader, because it's a huge world and you can cover it all. And the power of the blockchain, it will be continuous. And I think the cryptocurrency issue, one day it will be solved, and maybe Mr. Pedro will be happy about that, if it's stable coin or not.
Actually, it's some other middle ground. Maybe it's an asset back. That asset could be potentially Bitcoin, but maybe it's the thing on that table, or gold or silver or diamonds. It's whatever you accept as a community, what you think you consider valuable. So if you associate those coins or tokens or digital assets with something that has value and has some stability associated with it, could be real estate, then over time, your value will get protected. I want to, I guess, do a very special thank you to the people that spent the last 20, 30 minutes here with me, the effort that they put into it, and the thoughts that they bring to you to take home today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
To our dear viewers, that was direct from Blockchain Dubai 2022 with Lotoken CEO was participating in the panel discussion about the future of cryptocurrencies. So that was it. Please stick around in 20 minutes. We're going to have an interview, an AMA with Limo Coin. So a very special coin dedicated to the African communities. So please stick around and I will see you soon. Thank you very much and have a great